Hi guys, welcome to the final session of the season finale Baobab Charts, and it has been a great day, and we had very interesting sessions. And this final session, we're going to talk about COVID, the IT skills that we all need. I mean, we all in that situation where we know that things have actually changed and life as we know it has changed. And even our jobs, the environment that we work in, probably we have to work from home remotely and everything. So we are here to discuss about what could be done or how we could help or one can actually change and be able to transit with others as life has actually changed. So I've got a great panel here to discuss about these skills, and I think they are going to introduce themselves first round and what they do, and then after that we dive into the conversation. I think they always say ladies first. You can start.
Hi, everybody. My name is Loveness, and I am a digital strategist and a technopreneur. And I think that's just about it. Married, 2 children, and I wasn't always in that space. I have 12 years experience in the NGO as an accountant.
Okay. Yes.
Over to you. Yes.
Yes, I mean, guys, we can jump in. I mean, but for now it's for introduction. But even in the conversation, we can jump in and have a very interesting conversation. You can go ahead, Baldwin.
Hi everyone, I'm Baldwin Jerry. I'm a solutions architect and I'm based in Joburg. I've got more than 10 years of experience in the IT industry. And before that, I was doing Bachelor of Accounting. And yeah, it's nice to be here and to join you guys for this discussion.
Okay, so we're gonna have another interesting guy. So this is Baldwin, guys, and this is going to be Goldwin. So please don't confuse the two. But yes, over to you, Godwin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Godwin Dlovu. I'm a software developer based in Cape Town. I've been using IT as far back as I can remember. I guess, more physically back with the old school remotes. That's as far back as I remember. I started programming right about the age of 12. So I've been here. I've been doing this for a while.
Okay, now I see these experts are going to tell us some very interesting skills, but don't worry, we'll try to break it down. So, I mean, let's come back a little bit to say like COVID has actually changed quite a lot of things in our general life, and everything that happens is it's all like, what can we do? Now we have to work remotely. The conference that we used to go physically, we're no longer going there physically, but at any given time, things have changed for sure. I mean, in what situation, like tell us your experience about your workspace or people that you know, or what have actually have happened, or how the people that you might have known, some have lost their jobs, or the way work is actually being handled right now. I mean, how has that affected your lives, per se? I'm going to start with you, both.
So in my case, I have a few enemies in a way. Not really. I don't know how to put it. I think the best words is okay. Let me give you a context to give an idea of how life has changed. One of the projects that I worked on over the past few years was on a Capitec project, right? And the idea behind the application of the project that I was working on is remote onboarding, right? The idea being you don't have to go to the bank for you to open an account, right? All you need to do is to take a selfie and take a picture of your ID, or your ID card or your passport, and then within 2 minutes you've got a bank account. And if your phone has got NFC, you also get a credit card or a card provisioned on your phone in that 2 minutes of onboarding, right? So the idea behind this, what people usually forget is companies are responsible to shareholders, right? And shareholders are interested in making profits and making money. And the lower their costs, the lower their expenses, the more they make in terms of profit. So this project, even though it was built by a team of like 5 people, right? The consequences that it has is that 70% of the staff of Capitec,
Yes.
in the service industry,
Yeah.
those people are going to lose their jobs, right?
You mean to say 70% of the staff that are working
Wow.
are going to
within
lose their job
branch.
because of this. That's a lot. That's a lot.
So,
Sure.
and that's a big figure, eh? Like if you think about if I think there are some reports that they released of the number of people that are employed by banks and the like, and how much money the CEOs get and all that stuff, and the returns on investment for the shareholders. So obviously, if you are a shareholder for Capitec, getting to understand or getting to hear the news that you are going to reduce the largest expense that you have by 70%. That means that your profits are going to increase, your return on investment is going to increase, and that's why people get into business, right? It's not what you call this. It's not a negative thing, but most companies are trying to increase their profits by reducing their expenses.
The workforce. Yes,
Yeah.
I get your project there. So I don't want to get too much into details because I think a non-IT folk will be just like, what the heck is this guy talking about? I'll try to put it in layman's terms. So over to you, Loveness. What is actually, how has this changed? Be it fourth in revolution industrialization, or we're talking about COVID, it all has kind of, COVID has just accelerated things that have been happening.
Yeah.
I mean, how has this actually impacted the way you do things?
Well, for me, in Zimbabwe, the infrastructure and the adoption of digital working or digital solutions has been quite slow. Before COVID, and there are a lot of things that were being questioned already because of sustainability in doing business. When we talk about do we need an office for you to operate as a business? Does everybody need to come in? And I remember interacting with people, and the conversation between management and employees to say, I want to work remotely, I can still produce, was something that was difficult for people to actually comprehend. Maybe it also could have been that a lot of the management, they're a bit of the, a different generation.
Yes.
Trying to be diplomatic there. They're of a different generation, and so they believe in me coming physically to the office. And even when we're talking about business meetings, it always had to be face to face. It always also, that has been the experience, and it was just slow. As a consultant, it was slow. I would say, guys, I don't have to come there. We can have this meeting, or I can give you the results remotely. But it was so slow. So the coming in of COVID like accelerated. I don't know, maybe 10 years. What would have taken 10 years? All of a sudden, the conversation has changed.
Yes, now we're doing everything remotely. This is
yeah.
I mean, Godwin, I know for sure, you probably plus or minus, techie folks always work remotely. But has anything changed, from the people that you know, what has actually changed from the way they work?
I think the biggest change from being away from an office space is there's a lack of personality. Everything becomes more serious. People, if they need to find you, they expect you to be sitting right in front of, with a nice space in front of your computer. You should be available.
Okay.
Back in the office space, you could be having a coffee somewhere else. You could be in another meeting with somebody. things have changed. They've changed greatly. And also, just to add back to a very great point, I don't think COVID has necessarily changed the landscape in terms of what is there. I think what is done is it's changed perception more than anything else.
Okay.
Being confined, when COVID came and here in South Africa we had lockdown, you couldn't go anywhere. You had to stay in your house, and that confinement led to a fast absorption of technology. What we started seeing was people primarily communication. I think that's where it all starts, right? People needed to communicate, so you had new channels of communication coming up. Also new challenges. We unfortunately, COVID is quite a bleak time in our lives.
Yeah.
We've lost people during this time. And when you can't cross borders, when you can't even go 100 kilometers down, right? It opens up a new world. We've seen a lot of funerals being online.
Yes.
And the reason why I raise this is what we're seeing now is a major cultural shift and perception in how things have to be. Talking to what Loveness was saying, where you were expected to be in the office,
Yeah.
Now the mindset is very different. It's, we expect your work to be done. You're not necessarily expected to be at the funeral, anymore. It's because, people also, they are starting to come to terms with new realities. Like, it's quite cheaper to only host 20, 50 people at a funeral versus
and to have the whole entire plan.
Even weddings.
So you've got a new culture shift that's happening.
Okay.
Where people are starting to question what was the norm, right?
Yes, exactly.
All this technology existed before COVID.
Okay.
What you've got is a major shift now in the mindset of people moving forward.
Yes, I would agree with you guys. All these things have changed, and I think every industry have actually been affected. Either you are in your normal social life, things have actually changed, or either you are actually talking about even church or religion gathering. They are now coming online. But before, this was dismissed. Before, I mean, there's a cultural shift that happens now. You just feel like, before, this was kind of demonic or something, maybe not really accepted, but now there is no choice. Now you have to kind of really sit and say, okay, this is the only option that we have. So in all these things, okay, taking it into consideration, it actually says, talk about, be you a maid, be it whatever work that you're doing, even a maid. Now we have got smart houses, you somehow need to know something about IT. You need to know which button do I need to press for this washing machine to work. So it's not necessarily about just cleaning things and whatever. It's now with a dishwasher. You press a button, you press the wrong one, things go bizarre. So I mean, everybody needs these skills now. It's like it's a mandatory skill that one has to do, and some things probably are not going to change. So we've got two categories of people that have been laid off, and their life is not going to come back again. Work is not going to come back because things are not going to come back to where they are. That's the first category. The other one is just like, okay, I was this guy who used to do things manually with paperwork. Now it's remotely. Now I need to upskill. I now need to know how to scan. I now need to send an email. And how can one, let's start with the category where I am admin, I used to print and how can I help myself in this regard? What can I do? I mean, what can I to send an email, to do this kind of things? Because there is no place to learn software because there's so many of them. You actually somehow self-teach yourself as an end user. But how can one actually do this? I mean, Baldwin.
I would say with most of certainly that category of people who used to do things manually and now have to find an automated way of doing things because now they're in the office. To some extent, there is a financial implication that comes with it, especially if you're someone who needs to scan some documents and sign. But if you look at it, there are now more applications are coming out that allow you to sign your documents and your paperwork using like on your phone and the like. So that would be maybe one of the easiest ways of adjusting. Because generally before we used to be like, print first of all, sign, and then scan. But now you can use different applications to just open the PDF, sign, and then forward back without having to. It won't cost you that much in terms of adjusting, but you need to have an understanding of those applications, or at least know about those applications to say, I can do this without being in the office.
Okay, so there are some things that we cannot do unless we have to be in the office, but now there is always a way of actually really doing this from home. I mean, Loveness, in your area of work, like you were saying that it actually came it would have not come at any better time than this to accelerate working from home. And like what Godwin has just said, that it's not really about are you at work? It's like, can you show us what you did, where you did it, how you did it? We don't care. I mean, this is what's really happening. I mean, tell us about your experience, or what advice can you give to these people that are actually facing this kind of?
I think first of all, as IT people, I think I'd like to answer it actually in two ways. As IT people, it gives us a new responsibility for us to start talking about these things at a very basic level, at a very grassroots level. Because when we're talking about automation for someone, it's like, okay, what is that? What is going on? And I don't even understand that. But then that's when I started realizing that no, I have a responsibility to start talking about solutions that can actually help someone at a grassroots level, at a very, very, basic level. For us, when we're talking about Google, if we're talking about Google, if we're talking about Gmail, people only know the email, but there are so many more solutions that can actually help and add value and actually, give you much more productivity, because also with remote work comes the demand. It's also mentally taxing, it's emotionally taxing, and also it seems like there's more work, there's more screen time, there might be more digital health and wealth issues that come with that. And then if you are also someone, an end user, I liked what you mentioned, Herbert, the issue of upskilling. We have to get into learner mode consistently. Whether you're an expert or not, you have to constantly be looking and thinking, what can I do to add value to what I already know? Okay, fine, if I'm an accountant, what tech is there, what software is there that I can use and harness? If I wasn't doing anything, if I'm selling tomatoes, how can I use WhatsApp? How can I use WhatsApp to improve my service delivery and make sure that I deliver well? There's no level that does not require tech.
Yes, now there's no level that actually does not require tech. Okay, so there's this comment that's really interesting. Before this, there was another comment that goes like, okay, imagine you're having a wedding online and then the network drops before they say I do. So do we do a rerun or what happens? Very interesting. But I mean, these are the challenges that happens after this. I mean, yes, I mean, someone at least comes with a positive one. At least it plays the importance of IT people. I mean, Godwin, I mean, in your experience in this aspect, I mean, let's say someone working with paperwork and everything, and what would be they have to upskill, and what could be the best, like what could you tell them? Someone comes to you and tell this is what's happening, and what could be your advice to them?
I think that the reality is, a lot of us tend to learn on the job, the tools. So you go in, in your first before you your first job, if I could put it there, you've got a basic understanding of what you might need to get into that job space, right? So if you're doing a secretary, you might need basic typing skills, for example. If you're an accountant, you might have had to go through some course in Pastel or some other accounting software. As a software developer, you would have had other training. So you generally go in with basic understanding, But what I've discovered is quite a huge amount of time is when you get into a certain industry, that industry has specific IT tools that they use. They've got specific ways of doing things, processes that need to be followed, and workflows. So it becomes very difficult to generalize in that sense.
Okay.
But let's take another step back to where I think your question was alluding. Is look, we definitely have prior to COVID, right? We had a lot of backward thinking, but we also have very specific challenges in Africa, right? Like electricity, for example. It's very difficult to want to use all these IT systems when your electricity isn't there, when your internet isn't there. And these are basic challenges that we face, right? So a lot of the times businesses will take a step back and they would rather use what they know, right? Which is paper-based systems. As slow as they may be, the general environment in which we exist also throws certain challenges at us. So you've always got this question of we're not a first world country. Well, at least I don't think there is one in Africa, where there's a first world country.
Yes.
And a lot of these solutions that are first world country based, might not apply immediately, right?
Yes.
So you still have to also have those considerations. That's why I heard you talking, and I was like, I don't fully agree. It's not 100% where I could say, people lose jobs immediately because of these new technologies. And even when these new technologies exist, they still need to be supported, and
other things.
Time they'll rather have people that understand the systems or the previous system supporting the new systems.
Exactly. So I would point out to the fact that you still remember what Baldwin actually said in the first part. He actually said 70%, just because the system was implemented, are going to be laid off. That's a very huge number. That's the first part. But I would also disagree to say that we are not going to create jobs. We are going to create a different kind of jobs. So the jobs are being created, not that the ones that we are used to, the traditional part. So this is the part where I'm saying, so now I am this guy, maybe waiter or something like that. Things are really changing. Even now as a waiter, now you have to have your iPad or something to take orders, some understanding of basic skills, how to browse. This is very simple and easy for us, but it's not easy for everyone to just open an email and how actually it works. This is very important. But so if I am this person now that I have been laid off because I'm made redundant, how then, because now we're talking about upskilling, I am in this situation. I want to also transit with others as post-COVID and things are going to change. Where do I start? What happens? What can I do? This person. Just go ahead.
Understand. Okay, back in the day when it started, we thought that it was like it's just people trying to scare us.
Yeah.
But people say that there was a statement that said it's either you're going to be working with technology or you're going to be replaced with technology, right? So in your line of work, right, you are used to doing things a certain way, and if you can figure out how technology can replace you, you can learn the specific technology that will probably replace you. You have a better advantage of being the bridge between the pre-technology bit and the post-technology bit.
Okay. That's a very good, interesting point there. Really, really interesting. I mean, it's very powerful because at the end of the day, you can actually transit to the next phase other than someone actually coming to. I mean, Loveness, do you have anything to add on this point?
Yeah, I think in terms of what a person can do, really, it's mindset. First of all, I think is very, very important. We have to get away from, I like what you had mentioned earlier on, to say that technology is not for an elite. It's not something that's mystical and reserved for the boffins or the smart people. No, it actually is there as an enabler. It's there to make life easier. It's there for a lot of things, and some of it is driven by the personal initiative for someone to actually have a better life. Curiosity, creativity, saying, okay, fine, I've been doing bank reconciliations manually, ticking through the figures. How can I can Excel give me a better option? Can I automate this? What does Microsoft offer, on my computer? That already comes with my computer. I need to explore what's on my computer. I need to explore the capacity of my smartphone. We say, there's an interesting saying in one of the business models that I do. It says, how smart is a smartphone that can't make money for you? In the sense that even our smartphones are loaded with features. They are loaded with features, but someone will actually, especially in Africa, want to buy a specific phone which has got high performance specs and only use it for inboxing and outboxing, receiving calls and sending SMSs. But there are so many applications that will enable someone to run a fully fledged business from a cell phone. It's about curiosity.
Yes, it's about curiosity. I guess I get that part, but I would also say, let me jump in on this aspect. It's a different conversation that if you grow up with a cell phone, and if someone teach or have been taught how to use a cell phone, if these two people changes their cell phones, the other one might need to go for another recourse because they were taught how to use a cell phone. But the other one can easily interact with the new cell phone.
Yes.
Because it's in them. They have got intuition to say, chances are very high if I say exit or if I click on this is the menu, there's something that I'll find. But this one has to do some manual thing. So this is where I'm saying it's not as easy as we think it is. It's never that easy, really. But so, in this case that we're trying to upskill ourselves, Godwin, do you want to say something on this, or you agree with the other panelists?
I think I totally agree with the other panelists. This is a time to upskill, with the relevant technology that you need. I wouldn't say to somebody heading kettle that you need to be sending out email, right? But there are technologies in that space.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's very important to upskill yourself, to expose yourself. More than anything else, right? And yes, there will be, we will see situations where there will be job losses. We've seen this, industrial revolutions. We're going through what they call the fourth industrial revolution now. But what is an industrial revolution, right? It's when there is a change, a major shock to the system, specifically how the industry system works. And then people come back and, they resist. They say, no, we can't move to coal. It's going to mess things up. Now it's like everything is connected. It's going to change the shift and the focus of how business has been done, how work has been done, how people communicate. So there always will be resistance. But I think this is just a natural flow. So you have to upskill yourself, and if you don't, life will do it for you. We've seen this, right? Phones have become smarter. Everybody talks email. Once upon a time there was fax. I don't know whatever happened to fax now. We've seen our legal systems catching up. They're coming in here in South Africa. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the POPIA Act, which was signed into play about your personal information. That's your politicians and your legal systems catching up. So there's no way we can run away from it. It's natural. It will propel itself. This is how life has been. So
Yes, so I don't want you to go into too much detail, otherwise my viewers will get lost about this technical stuff. But
Yeah.
it's okay, they need to know about something that like that exists. But so I want to just jump into the comment that was made in social media by Eric. He says like internet has become like a basic
Yes.
necessity that governments
Yes.
actually need to drive supporting legislation for the modern workforce. I mean, this is very true. And I think everybody now needs to be kind of a network engineer because somehow I've got a router. A router is that thing that is at home that sends the Wi-Fi to your whatever. So if it doesn't work, somehow you need to know how to fix this thing. It's an IT skill that you need to know, even to restart, like switch on, switch off, switch off. And then switch on. This is a basic IT skill that one has actually to. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, so I also want to say, I mean, we have been talking about these interesting ways of changing, how we can change and move and can the dynamism. But I would also say that how did we, I mean, if you can give me a nutshell how you yourself become IT experts. I mean, we don't want to get too much into detail. Maybe then we could be able to help someone and say it was not so much of an IT degree, or it's more much of an IT degree. Do I need to go back to college? What am I supposed to do? Or what is exactly is supposed to be done right now? Maybe I did a different degree now, so do I need to do computer science? Do I need to do software engineering? Can I switch? What happens? Okay, something like this. I mean, Loveness, you can jump in on this one. I mean, ladies first. I'm sorry, but
Yeah. Well, for me, I'll only share what first of all, when I did the transition from accounting to digital marketing and all this, the space that I'm in right now in digital solutions, it was not an easy one in the sense that there's a huge learning curve that's involved there. And sometimes if we say go online and check, oh my goodness, knowledge is a click away, and so is confusion. There is a lot of information now. Some of it is divergent, some of it they agree, sometimes they are separate, and I think there's definitely a lot of content out there. But what helped me was first of all, identifying what it is that I actually want to learn and starting at a very, very basic level, in the sense that just going online, what is digital marketing? And then in learning all that, I then discovered that there are certain people that speak to me like in a way that I understand. So I started having virtual mentorship. Like, thank God for YouTube. You know, you've got your YouTube people. Although there are many, there are certain people that can actually help you through the process. And you need to be patient with yourself, and very, very like stubborn about mastering a certain concept. You can't be telling yourself, oh no, this is too hard, I can't do it, because there's that element that comes in. But you need to be very, very strong and say, I want to learn this, I'm going to grasp it, and be willing to call out for help. Like, I'm assuming that some of the people that are here on this panel are people that people can then follow up on, are people that people can then contact. There are people within your sphere who know something more than you might not know, that you can ask. So I think that's the best way.
Yes, so this is another interesting comment, but okay, probably we can come to it. And it says, Princess Queen says, systems are now integrated. Banks are now linked with government systems, and almost everything is now linked. Right? But now, how do we maneuver when one feels that this integration is used for our detriment? Okay, we can talk about that in a different conversation. But for now, this is kind of a concern for many users. But I mean, back to you, Godwin. How did you become this interesting IT expert?
Well, much like the other two panelists that we have here, I also studied something different. I studied management. It's just that in my personal space, I always preferred programming. It's something I was passionate about. And I honestly went down a very long path to get to where I am now. But every experience is something gained. Look, the best way is talk to someone. I feel somebody you think is more knowledgeable, somebody that you've seen, in that space. That's always the best way I feel, to get started, right? The school, IT is a spectrum. It's not one thing. It's huge. It's so huge. I mean, from data that in itself breaks down, from databases, business analytics, business information. You've got the skills that I specialize in, which is programming. But even then, there's different.
Yes. I know, but don't tell our viewers. They don't want.
What I'm trying to say is
they go crazy.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say, it's not one thing. There's a huge
spectrum. Not one thing.
So you need to get involved and to ask the questions within where your interests lie. So as to speak, right? Almost everything has some form of IT, and not necessarily in the perceived sense, how we view things, right? Yeah, mechanics need IT, for those cars with computers now, but that's not it. That's not they wouldn't ask the same questions that you and I would ask, for example. And also that part of learning how to deal with that and engage with that is a very different part. So, it's wide and far-reaching. There honestly is no one way. Do your research, with anything in life. Do your research, talk to people, go out there, put yourself on the line, and eventually something will give.
Okay. So I mean, this is more or less on everybody's level. I'm sure. I mean, Baldwin, what would be your contribution to this?
I agree with the other panelists, and the point. I think the starting point is because most of the people who have not been exposed to IT, they don't know how to enter or where to start off. The best thing is to have a mentor, right?
Yes.
So because it's always easier to have someone who's walked the path that you want to walk, to guide you so that you don't either take as long as they did or get lost. So in some way or the other, I think LinkedIn even has an option of reaching out to someone. So you want to get into IT, but you don't know which field. Try searching for people on LinkedIn who are in IT and reach out to them and ask if they can mentor you. That is like what Godwin said, based on the fields that you're interested in. If you want to go the data route, and most of the people think that IT is only programming and super geeks and the like, but there are different fields of IT that also support those fields. So if you are good at planning events, for example, and you are working in event management, you might be a good Scrum manager. But people don't know that there is a role or there's a type of field in IT which falls under IT, which deals with organizing the IT teams, even though you might not understand exactly what they're doing, but you can organize the teams. And it basically ties into your skill set of being good at planning and organizing. And now you're just moving it into the IT space and organizing a team that might be doing totally Greek to you, but it's a certain field that you can leverage your existing skills that you're using in other fields. But yeah.
Okay, I think we lost Baldwin. So I mean, yes, I think there is always a part where you just need to leverage your skill into IT. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that would say probably you need to be this smart guy to be actually have some concept or to be really, because all of a sudden you're talking about now 40 industrialization. Sorry, we are talking about this kind of stuff. We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about like robotics and all this other stuff. Sometimes it scares a lot of people, really, and any individual. I mean, I don't know, McDonald's, that side probably you now have this self register, or
Serving.
that you can actually buy your stuff, and all you have to do is to, so that's someone's job that actually. But also we need to also consider that the person who is going to do this ordering, himself or herself, has to have some ability of IT, really. You just don't go there and start ordering something without this skill. So this is becoming, everybody has to somehow chip in and move with it. I mean, there is a comment that was made here. I'm not so sure if it's going to be too technical, but it says, going forward as IT individuals and businesses, and cloud platforms and computing and security, some of the key concepts to consider when we are going forward from post-COVID. But
Yes.
now everything is going to be online. But there's also another issue around data itself, to say, how secure do I, or when I'm doing this and all this stuff, because now everything is going to be online, right? To what extent do I have authority to these kind of things? Some people can ask, and how secure is this? I mean, I'm an ordinary person. Now I used to do things on my own. I've got my business and I've got this small office that I used to do things, but now I'm moving them online. How secure can I know? What can I do? I mean, because there is also hacking. I do not know really what happens with hacking. What can one do in this situation? I mean, any of you guys can jump in.
I'll pick that one up. There's a saying, and I think you mentioned it at some point. Once it's online, it's online. Look, the reality is, we're not that safe, to be honest. Right? But you see, the question is relative to what, or in some other sense is, what do we mean by being safe, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, your bigger companies, the whole, IT society, we invest a lot, right,
Okay.
in making sure that systems are secure. Are they 100% secure? No. But is anything 100% secure in life? You'll jump onto a car, they'll put airbags, they'll do enough testing to make sure that that car is as safe as possible.
Okay.
But is it 100% safe? No. There is still, and once again, it's a range of possibilities, right? There's yourself and how you interact online with the world around you. If you go out giving out your passwords, people will go through your stuff. If you're popular, people might want to hack you, unfortunately. So, when you think about it, there's relative safety, safe enough to know that you can put all your stuff online, and really you shouldn't necessarily get exposed, but it's not 100% safe.
Okay. So before the other guys continue, I want to also bring this part in so they say, so what does a person who has been working for 30 or so years, and only has 5 to 10 years to retirement, what can they do to upskill? This is a very interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. It depends on what they've been doing, right?
Yeah.
It depends on what they've been doing. So if you have been in a specialized industry for 30 years, right? One of the things that you can do is either partner up with someone who is in IT and find a way of bringing your specialized skill set, the virtual version of your specialized skill set, right? But the answer doesn't apply. It's not a universal answer to everyone, right?
Okay.
For someone who has been digging trenches for the past 30 years and COVID came, and how can you now dig trenches? Maybe for someone like that, learning how to drive that automated digger might be the version of upskilling, right?
Okay.
Because if you don't know how to drive that automated digger, then in as much as you've got all the kind of experience on the different types of rocks, you
might
are
not. Yes. So in addition to that, there is also an earlier comment that was said, younger generations needs to be taught though that you can be able to use an IT system more than the oldies, but they need to learn the technicalities of the industries from the more experienced. So there is also the transition
Context.
between where we're talking about the oldies, they've got the know-how, but manually, probably the theories and everything. Because now also, I mean, if you get a little bit into detail where we say like AI, is it going to replace the actual theories that were already there, like be it in actuarial science or everything. Now we're using data to predict models. What about the mathematics before? So in this kind of sense, so how do we? Okay, I don't want to dive too much into that, but it actually applies to what Baldwin has just answered. Loveness, do you have anything to add to this?
I think that, I'm just imagining in Zimbabwean context. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but when someone is nearing retirement, guys, learning a new skill is something else. I remember whilst I was in the accounting field, I had someone who was my senior, who I had to constantly go and show how to how to use my Microsoft Word, changing the whether to landscape and portrait. They struggled to grasp that. And so I think that there is definitely a need for us, something that I've seen in the other developed countries, where we do have IT upskilling for seniors. And then we start teaching it at I don't even know, at a very simplified way, so that they understand, and there's a lot of patience that is involved. There's a lot of re-explaining. I remember even a mobile wallet, the e-wallet, was a different uptake for the same person. So, and even yes, even online banking, the password was written down. After it was written down, it was kept in a wallet. This wallet was kept in a secret compartment of a briefcase. The briefcase was not kept in the open, it was also kept under some, and it's like, okay, this is what gives him the sense of security. But in actual fact, there's so many things that you can't do with online banking. Yeah.
Yeah, that could go. Yes, so these are real life and real situations. So I mean,
Yeah.
our time we're running out of time, but I want to shift a little bit for as we conclude. So then Tafara Tukela says, okay, let me just put it up here. I mean, it's a very interesting part to the next conversation, or the part of the conversation we're going to have. To learn new IT skills, you can make use of the MOOCs, courses, e.g., the IBM. National
Yes.
Africa, where I can also learn emerging technology skills for free. We also have Microsoft Africa, and people can learn for free. Okay, so I mean, this is very interesting, but I think the IBM and everything, and I mean, we have also mentioned the challenge of being in Africa and data and everything. Okay, so in a parting shot, in our conclusion, to say, guys, you are with someone that you've met, and probably you want to give them an advice to say, probably data, but at least they have to pay for something. They have to pay something for sure for you to learn. So let's say data is probably an issue, but still they still have to buy it. What could be your advice? Probably not really a generic one, but depending on, maybe you can give a context, because even now doctors, everybody has to use an IT somehow here and there. So what would be your advice to someone who says, this is my situation, what can they do? Be it probably maybe they're scientists, or maybe they're not, or you can give a reference to something if you want to, but also in check over time. I mean, I can start with whoever wants to start.
I'll try and make it quick. So what I would recommend people to do is to invest in a decent computer. It doesn't have to be the best, most powerful computer, but at least you can consult with other people who are in IT to say, how can I, or which is the best, this based on my budget. You don't have to get the latest computer, but if you can invest in a decent computer, because whether we want it or not, there is a certain cost of learning. even if there are free YouTube tutorials that can teach you from the beginning to learn AI from the beginning to be an expert, but you need to have the tools that allow you to do so. You need to have access to internet. If you don't have access to internet, you at least need to have a place where you can have access to internet, where you can download all the resources that you need. So my first advice would be invest in a decent, be it a laptop or a computer, even if it's a home desktop that everyone can share at home and take turns to learn.
Okay, that's a very like more practical example to invest in it. I mean, just if you can't afford quite each one to have a laptop, yes, that's true. And Godwin, what would be your advice, and what could happen to people that need change right now, or what they can do today, even tonight? I mean, I'm just saying, like, what could be the near-fetched solution?
I think everything is quite situational. There's just too many variables we're not considering. I love what Baldwin said, which is primarily you need to have the tools. You need to upskill yourself. Definitely, change is constant, and therefore you also must upskill yourself and change as the times go. You must have the tools to upskill yourself. Otherwise, that's the basic starting point. So there'll always be a cost to it. And then depending, once again, on what your end goal is. If you want to get a career in IT, you might need just a bit more. If you want to learn how to use a specific application, like an ATM machine, you could just watch a video somewhere that will teach you how to use that ATM machine. So once again, as I said before, it's a spectrum. It's not just one thing. But always the starting point is the tools. The question is, what tool do I need to achieve my end goal? And then, you fill in the missing gaps in there as you go along.
Okay. And Loveness, I mean, your parting shot in the conclusion to this.
I think, like, I'm going to try and be very quick. Definitely, I'm seeing that there's a lot of, in terms of digital access, that is needed. Some of the tools are way out of the reach of the ordinary person. You are talking to someone who doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, or how next month is going to look like. So I think some of the things really need a lot of advocacy, even at a legislature perspective. If you've got a lot of more resources, let's partner and distribute some of these things, educate people, partner and things like that. And then at an individual level of someone who actually has the data and access, start being smart about how you use those resources in terms of think around business, think around what can I do, what can I learn. There's WhatsApp, how can I use WhatsApp for business? And for me, it really goes down to, I love what Baldwin has said: mentorship, networking, collaboration, digital, and all those amazing things where you're not doing this on your own.
Okay, guys, this has been very informative. I mean, it's unfortunate we're not getting paid for it, but it's very interesting. It's really have been informative. I'm just saying, I'm joking, but people have learned a lot, and I've also learned a lot. I mean, some of the things that I also did not know, I think probably have learned from other people, and our viewers have actually literally learned quite a lot. I think it has been a very successful session, and thank you all guys for watching season finale. And this is the end of our season today. And thank you so much for your support. And it has been very great. And we hope to see you in the next season. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.